my video off. I'm just
Hello
testing
and
my daughter.
welcome to hello and welcome to Book Club in a Box, Book in a Box's online and live streamed book club. I'm Sarah, and today I'm joined by Maria, Kiana, and Robin. We're gonna be talking about this amazing book, Honeysuckle, by Bar Fridman-Tell. And I want to warn everybody watching at home that this is a spoiler zone. We will be discussing the book as it is, with all its twists and turns and dark discussions. So if you have not read the book or have not finished it, then you can leave us now and come back later. We will be here on YouTube as a video. If you have any questions or points you want us to discuss, you can comment that in the live stream chat, and I'll be reading it at the end. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I am looking forward to hearing your thoughts about this book. I have to say, I got this book described as a cozy spring romantasy, which it is not, but having that mindset kind of made the twist bigger for me. How were your experience with this slow building rot, if you want to call it that? Robin?
So, what I found interesting most of all was how it does start with that fairy tale theme and language, and then it slowly reveals the horror within the relationship. And I'm not a fan of horror, so it did take me a few minutes to what, and I had to go back and read it, and I was like, okay, now I'm getting it. But it was that dynamic from fairy tale to horror that really gripped me.
Yeah, and I know you probably had a better description than me, but I got lulled in by the fairy tale. I was believing that this was a cozy read. What about you, Kiana? How did the book unfold for you?
Kind of about the same. The beginning was fairy tale like and like kind of innocent with Rory just wanting a friend to play with and his sister, growing out of that phase. Um, and I don't recall uh if they said a lot about the flower girls in the beginning about how they're uh connected to their maker or whatever. Um, but then as it grew, like they grew up together. I mean, their friendship, it started off, like I said, innocent, but then it grew into something darker. So it was really interesting to see how that unfolded.
Yeah, and it's almost a betrayal of the friendship from the beginning.
Hmm.
How were what were your experience like, Maria?
I went into it knowing at some point it twisted. So when I started it, I was confused with the innocence part. I was like, okay, did I get it wrong? And of course, as he was getting older, I figured, I was like, this is probably where it's gonna turn ugly. And he was trying so hard to like give her like a say and stuff, but was essentially like, I wouldn't even say love. It was more like obsession. At that point, he was so honed in on her that yeah, it was pretty ugly how it continued on after all of that unraveled.
Yeah, and I actually want to jump right into the question of free will and consent. And anybody can take it up, but do you think that they has free will, and has she been able to consent? Kiana, do you wanna?
Ah, this read was like super thought provoking, because of the way that she was created. I don't know if intentionally, like she was made as this playmate and that was her purpose, I guess, but then it not blossomed, but it blossomed and then decayed into something darker. I don't think that she had a lot of because she didn't really know. I mean, like, she didn't know a lot of about our world, I guess you would say. So she didn't have all the information she needed to consent, I think, and her free will was limited to what Rory wanted to do, basically, or wanted to have going on.
Does she get free will then, if she didn't have it at that point?
Um, I mean, at the end, yeah, I think so. She was free, I would say, free as a bird. I mean, and I thought that was I wanted to see more at the ending of her being free, but I think it left off at a good point to where it's just like for the theme of the story.
And perhaps she is given the freedom from us as well in the
Yeah.
end. I think it was a very interesting use of language that I don't think personally that she was able to consent because she didn't have the language to say either yes or no, because he had taught her all the language she knew in her sign language.
Right.
And it was first when she got a voice that she was able to speak words he hadn't taught her. So I don't think she actually could consent even if she wanted to. That was my read of it. But there was a passage where she mentioned that she does get pleasure from it. And I know pleasure is not equal to consent, but do you think once she knew what sex was, that she grew to like it or participate in it, or was it always non-consensual? I'm gonna be mean and give it to Maria.
I think she was doing it to please him. So I don't really think she wanted to, in that sense, because she was made as a playmate to have fun with him and do what he wanted to do. I just don't think she had that ability. Like you said, she didn't have the words, and she was like, even the first time, like she was looking at his facial features, his expressions to see if she says yes or no, and she didn't want to do anything to disappoint him. So no, I don't think she did. She didn't, of course, because she's not human. She didn't have that thought process either, to know what was going on. But I don't think it was consensual, and I think she was doing it as what she was created for in the beginning, which was to have fun with him and please him in every which way.
Yeah. You also had something, Robin?
So I don't think it was any kind of consent, because obviously she relied on him. He was essentially fully in control. Now, from a dom and sub part of it, then you could see that submissive nature in her, always wanting to please him. But it was still non-consensual in my eyes, and it was unsettling the way it came about.
Also, the
Yeah.
fact that we first viewed it through Rory's eyes, and he paints it as romantic and as a natural progression, and then we afterwards see it through her eyes.
I have like a hot take, I guess. I don't know. Because, like I said, it was very thought provoking, so I was trying to see the different perspectives. And at a point, yeah, it was non-consensual, but I was looking at it from like a teenage boy's point of view, I guess, because they grew up together, and I feel like with his separation anxiety and his like abandonment issues, he didn't have those parental figures to teach him about certain things. Like when he went into the city, he was kind of he didn't know social cues or whatever, how to talk to people really, because they were in a different world, essentially, him and Ren. And then when she left, he really had nobody. But I was looking at it because they were still teenagers, as how feelings grow, and you have the puberty issue and the hormones and stuff for a regular teenager, I guess. And then he didn't have anyone else, I guess, around him. He just had Day that he was falling in love with. And it was a toxic love, but that was all he knew.
And he also isolates himself from his friends from the
Yeah.
village once they gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was protective, I guess, of Day, and the way that they were looking at her, like she wasn't, because in his mind, she's like real. And obviously she's not, but they were looking at her like she's not a human.
When we saw him going to the city and him learning how he could be in that new place, the identity he could take somewhere where nobody knew him, I almost saw the same thing that Wayne had gone through when she was young and created Day, because they were the same age and she was just discovering university life. But Rory was locked in, and this is gonna sound mean, but he had made a promise to his invisible friend from childhood that he was never gonna abandon her, and then he started to grow up, and I felt he was kind of forcing himself to keep believing in his childhood imaginary friend, which created this kind of toxic love. Because I think it was a natural progression that he was doing. He was beginning to grow up. He wanted to have more freedom. He wanted to be seen as smart and intelligent, but he still was drawn back home. And that is kind of what Wayne went through when she was 16. So, is Wayne a villain or not? Because Roy certainly paints her as a villain for wanting to kill Day. But is she?
I don't think so. I think she was a normal big sister with an annoying little brother that never left her alone. And, out of thinking this would be good for him to have someone to play with, created it for her, and that she grew up and matured and was like, I made a mistake. She didn't realize it was going to turn into that. Again, their parents left them and whatever, like forgot them, like do not care about them. And I think she realized that it had turned into something ugly, like when she finds out what he did and everything. She realized like it was wrong. So I don't think she's the villain. I just think she was a child annoyed with her brother and did something for him to have someone to play with. And so I don't think she is. My personal opinion.
She told him she wanted to play hide and seek, and then for 16 years she never went looking for him and realized he was still in the closet and she needed to go get him. That was kind of my thinking, like, if you have smaller siblings, you have said, oh, let's play hide and seek, and then got 5 minutes apiece. Robin, did you have something?
So I kind of see it from both sides. I do feel she was a bit villainous, but I don't think her intentions were to come across that way. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag with her. Was she really a villain just because she behaved a certain way without the intention of being one? So I don't know, she's still an unknown in my head.
Rory is also the only one who knows or believes that Day is an identity, that she does have free will, that she is a person. So viewing Wayne's action through that, she just believes it's a toy that he's gotten too attached to. But do you think she could have a different conversation with him about it, or is she also so affected of the trauma and the abandonment that she's unable to have a serious conversation with her brother?
I think she's detached due to the abandonment of she was older. So I think that that has caused her to be a little bit colder, I believe. So I think she could have a different conversation if she didn't turn into that type of person.
Do you see her action in the later years as a way of trying to reconnect with him, or is it still just a question of them sharing a space now?
I think she was trying to reconnect with him when she invited him to stay in the apartment. She was like, "This is your home too, and it'd be nice to have a roommate." And just because I think she had grown and maybe she was kind of lonely as well as Rory. And she was just trying to be a better big sister. And I don't think her intentions of making Day were ill until she later realized that their construct, I think it was what they were called, that they were bound to do whatever they were told to do, basically. And she was trying to, I think, kind of rectify that by letting Rory know, hey, this isn't okay.
And perhaps this also comes back a little to the free will, because you say that the construct has to do what they were originally told to. Day's original charter, or like controlling sentence, was that she was gonna play whatever game Rory wanted her to play within reason. So maybe her saying no and flying away is just still operating on that sentence, because now it's gotten out of reason. It's not reasonable anymore. But then it's still her being a construct, perhaps. That was just something I thought of just now, but I don't know if anyone had any thoughts like that.
I want to hear Robin because she looks like she's not agreeing.
And it's okay not to agree. That's why we.
Oh, I don't like my face because it tells too many things.
And I'm over here like hyper vigilant on everybody's emotions.
So, going back to the sister for a second, and the way the day came about, I wonder if some of the sister's thoughts and emotions actually went in today, and how that abandonment affected her, and why they were so willing to do whatever was asked of her, whatever was told, to perhaps prevent that abandonment feeling from happening again. But again, it does all come down to consent, which she had none. But yeah, so it's, I don't know, I've only just thought about that and how maybe the sister is more of a villain than I actually thought.
She can be an accidental villain. She can be.
Yeah. Accident. It was accidental, because obviously she wouldn't have meant to put those emotions into it.
She was a child.
Yeah.
And children can't control their emotions. I mean, as adults, we barely can, let alone a child, a teenager.
And I know we see Rory sees her as a villain, but if your little brother came to you and said, I have not only developed a relationship with my childhood invisible friend or my childhood imaginary friend, I have also developed a physical relationship. You might also tell your little brother, this is wrong, you need to let it go, this is not healthy. And you might be a little angry at him for
I think I'd be a little confused.
Yeah.
Like, they're invisible. How are you doing it physically?
But she can also be an accidental villain in the same way Dr. Frankenstein may be viewed as an accidental villain, because he certainly did not create the creature to kill his future wife. That was
that we know of.
that we know of. That it was a consequence of his actions, but it certainly wasn't what he set out to do. I kind of see similarities between Frankenstein and this book as well. And it's a monster creature created that becomes sentient and slowly becomes its own person, and then wanting to have a life that the creature defines for itself, and a creator that says, no, you have to fit in my box. And a famous question that you get asked, if you, like me, have studied Frankenstein, is who is the monster? Is it the doctor or the creature? So who is the monster in Honeysuckle? Is it Day or is it Rory? I think we've already touched on it, but
Yeah, my vote's on Rory.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely Rory. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful contrast that Day is literally made of bird parts and flowers and a construct, but we still see her as more human than the human who made her.
And I feel that was the emotions from both Win and Rory that was put into her. Because I think everything went into her, even whatever was like hidden due to their parents leaving. I think that's why she's a little bit more, I guess, moral would be, I guess, has more morality than the other two characters in the book. And I think just too much emotions went into her unknowingly, of course, because not even they or the university they go to understand what they were doing. Nobody understands it, not even the smartest professors or anything like that knows how far that went. And the fact that they were able to do that as children, not even after the university.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they're geniuses. They're just geniuses who use their powers for evil. Staying at the university, Roy does get a friend group. And it's a friend group that at the beginning is closely knit and very high school, beginning of college. You ride and die, you can see no wrong in your chosen friend group. And slowly it starts to splinters. We have Hannah, who first break off with the group, and then slowly the others also start to distance themselves from Rory.
Right.
At some point, we have a scene where Hannah brings her new boyfriend into a bar, and the boyfriend actually confronts Rory and say the only difference between Day and a pet is that Rory fucks Day. Why do you think the friends stay friends with him for so long? Do they believe she is consenting and self-aware, or are they too embarrassed to tell him, or do they not believe that he actually has created this construct? Why do you think they stay with him?
I think they cared for him at a certain point. I think they saw his obsession, and I think maybe they stayed wanting to help, but in the end, I think they saw it they were going to get nowhere with him, and even their friendship was not blossoming into anything. So I think they just distanced themselves from him.
I think maybe when they first met him, he was, they were curious about him. They had seen him around her from where he was, but they never like interacted with him, and they kind of maybe felt sorry for him and wanted to like take him in and give him some real friends, I guess. And I don't think they knew a lot. Like he studied a lot about Bladewitz, but they hadn't, so they didn't really know. And until later on, where Hannah's boyfriend is like, they basically have to do what they're told, and if you read so much about him, then you would know that, and that's where he was crossing the line. And but I think they did care for him and wanted to help. They just probably didn't know how.
No, but some of them did stay after that conversation. So in some way, they closed their minds off it. They didn't entertain the thought that Hannah and her boyfriend was right. Otherwise, they, I think, couldn't stay friends. But I also got the feeling it was like if you meet someone at your first year in university studying computer science, and this person has already created an AI model that he tells you is self-aware and intelligent. That is cool. You want to be around that guy. He is intelligent. He is cool. That is amazing. I want to learn from you, and you're a really interesting person. If you then later realizes, okay, he believes he has a relationship with this AI model, that would probably also like split the waters on, do we stay friends with him and help him, or is he too weird? Let me distance myself.
I think with the friends, it was more introducing him to a more normal human world, but it failed in actually making him an emotional person. And I don't think they negatively impacted him, but they didn't positively impact him either. It was more, they were just there.
Right.
But yeah,
But
from an emotional point of view, I don't think they actually helped him.
Yeah.
But are they somehow complicit in the ongoing, let's call it rape, of Day after this point? Because if they believe she is a real person, and Hannah certainly does believe that she cannot consent, then not doing anything to help Day, is that then complicity?
Guilty by association and knowing.
Yeah. At first,
Yeah,
when
and
they didn't,
inaction.
at first when they didn't know, I think they just trusted him to not be doing that. But afterwards, I think they were just kind of turning a blind eye towards it and not trying to get into it with him.
Yeah, they were just distancing themselves
Yeah.
without actually helping Day
Right.
or even helping Rory in any way.
Yeah, because if you believe your friend has someone locked in a house in the woods and going there every weekend to rape them, I would really hope you would at least call the police or do something to free that person. But maybe they never believed Rory that she was self-aware.
I don't know. I think it'd be a he is Johnny moment. Help.
Or they just didn't believe she was a real person. But I think they knew, and just like you said, complicit, didn't want to say anything. They just distanced themselves from him.
Yeah.
But I don't think they helped him in any way emotionally. Like they were, but also because he didn't open himself up to that either, because he was socially awkward and lacked all of those skills, didn't learn that growing up, right from wrong.
Right.
You know, he knew some things here and there because they had that tutor. But that was about it. I mean, he had the childhood of some sociopaths have. You know, if you think about it, they were abandoned yet still taken care of, which, I mean, I think that's worse, that they're still like throwing money to make sure you're alive. But that's it.
Yeah, they didn't have that nurturing. They just had their needs met, their basic needs met. They didn't
Just to
have
make
the
sure they were,
emotional stability. Yeah.
because even the house taker, what was her name? The lady,
Miss
like she was
Matthews?
also just,
Yeah,
it's like even she didn't like, you know how sometimes usually those caretakers are more of the mother than the mother. She definitely was not. She was just there to get her earnings.
Right. And
Yeah.
she didn't say anything about Rory and Day
She
or
called her
try
a
to,
thing, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Because I think that's the difference for me between Mrs. Matthew and the friends. She never believed Day was a real person. So what he did with his magic toy was weird, but she didn't believe it impacted a person. Whereas if his friends truly believed her to be alive, then it hits different. But Roy almost gets a clean slate. He has a lot of emotional baggage after Day flies away, and he certainly has a reputation at university. But he doesn't get punished in any way other than his plaything going away. Do you think he has the ability to go back to university and find his friend group again and then lead a normal life?
No, I think he's a psycho.
But
I think
psychos
he'll
can match.
probably, yeah, I think he'll probably continue to be alone or a loner, I guess. But I'm interested. I would like to see like a little bit after like his relationship maybe with Ren and if he ever goes back to the house or anything like that, and or just both of their futures really, Rory's and Day's.
I know I wanted to see a lot more of the university like side of it. I think
Mhm.
and I think that's my thing. I really like academia type
Mhm.
books, and I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of what was going on there. But of course, this was his whole obsession with her. But I don't think he'd be okay because now he was abandoned a second time.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they were both kind of relieved at some points. Rory or Day didn't want Rory to come back home, and she was having fun with her creatures and whatnot. And he was happy to be in his second or his double life, without having to have that on his shoulders, the weight of Day, going back and reviving her, reconstructing her. And now that he was living his double life or whatever, he was just happy and relieved that she was bound to the spring, and so he knew that she was okay, and he didn't have to worry as much, and so he was relieved of that as well.
Yeah, because he's almost as trapped in the forest at the cottage as she is.
Yeah.
Because he wants to go on exchange programs. He wants to be at the university. But he needs to go back. Is there, I know he's a psychopath, but is there any sympathy to be found for him in the situation that has been created?
For the child he was, yes.
Yeah.
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 I
Because
felt sympathy for him being abandoned by his parents. That's awful. Poor thing, come here, I'll hug him. However, at the end, no sympathy whatsoever, because to be in that kind of a relationship and be that controlling, I don't think you can change. So I don't think going forward he'll be able to mature emotionally to have a healthy relationship. Even with his sister, I don't think their relationship will ever repair. So he's a psychopath.
Yeah, I felt. Go ahead.
Maria first.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I completely missed this. As from a child, also the dreading every time for her to fall apart was another trauma. Like it was basically death, not necessarily like her wilting and consistently. And then that one time that, when took forever to come back, like I think that just built more on what he was more than likely going to turn into, and what shaped, his personality is just always, if in your mind, if you're thinking like, if I'm not there on time for like my child, he's going to die. you know, like just thinking of that, I'm like, I would lose my mind, I think, as well as a person at that point. But he was a child.
Yeah. And Kiana?
Yeah, I felt super bad for him in the beginning because at one point he was like, I remember him crying, and he was like, everybody leaves eventually. Um, when Ren left for university, and already his parents had disappeared. Up until I think he was about to turn 17, at the point where he had known about the consent part, or the part of the constructs being not being able to say no to their makers. Up until then, I felt sorry for him because he was just alone, and not knowing all the things of the outside world, or the social cues and stuff like that. The consent part, and like I said, the things you learn from your parents or being around your peers. Um, he just didn't have any of that in his head. Like, he was missing a lot of information and things. And then when he started going to the university, I was like, well, you have all these books, like you could read up on some stuff, other than the construct. But he was just so obsessed with it. I think it was his downfall, I guess.
Do we believe him when he says he never knew she couldn't say no? Because that's what he tells himself.
Mm-mm.
Because again, Hannah's boyfriend is kind of the unsung hero of this book, who says, "How could you not know? It's in every book." But I think I'm gonna disagree a little with the psychopath diagnoses, because I think he has a need to not be a villain for himself, that he needs to fool himself into thinking he didn't know she couldn't consent, or that he's doing this for her. It's not outwardly, it's more inner. And I don't think that's typically psychopath behavior, because if it was psychopath, he wouldn't care about his own feelings. It would be what people thought about him. But this is also internalized. I need her to be able to say yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robin. I still don't
No.
like him.
No.
Yeah. No, I do see where you're coming from, and it is. I think he's got a lot of things wrong with him. It's not just one diagnosis. But yeah, it was all just a little bit psycho for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, and there's a differences, psychopath and sociopath. So the sociopath is the lack of that frontal lobe emotions, and the psychopath has the ability, because that's why they start to do things in that manner or get obsessed. Usually it's an obsession, which I feel he did try, right? There's points where he was trying to tell himself, I need her to say yes. I don't want her to just say yes to please me. There was that was his internal monologue, but he still wanted to do it without her doing the consent. And those are a little bit of those controlling factors, in that. So that's where he lost me, where he was saying all these things and doing the total opposite, which to me, that is trying to justify your actions.
Yeah. I do think he's a little tragic, because he was basically given a gift as a young child that ruined his life. If Wayne hadn't created Day, he would have grown up to be a deeply weird child. A lonely person who didn't understand social cues, but he probably wouldn't have gone this far. He would have kissed Hannah under the streetlight, and he would have had a very bad relationship with her, and perhaps he could have grown from it. So the path he was on was not the one he had chosen. He was put on it. And I think that's a little tragic. Even though he is a villain and a monster.
Yeah,
I
yeah, of
think,
course. Go ahead.
no, you got it's a
I was just saying, I think, yeah, if she wouldn't have been created, it would have been, a totally different situation, but he would have still had his, his troubles due to no one playing with him when leaving and then him being totally left to his own devices.
Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say I think his controlling issues are so deeply rooted from that trauma of abandonment. He's like, no one else is gonna leave me. Day is gonna stay with me. That's the way it's gonna be. So I think that affected him a lot.
As it probably would anybody.
Hmm.
I wanna put Rory up on a shelf, and we don't need to get him down anymore if we don't want him. I wanna ask you about Day. After she flies away, do you think she will continue to renew herself, or will she let herself wilter? Because in the beginning of the book, I actually got the sense that she felt herself unnatural in her renewal, that it wasn't necessarily a bad feeling beginning to wilter and rot, but that the choice of death was taking away from her. So do you think she continues living on and flying away, or will she stop at some point? She has the ability now to choose.
Now, this is actually something I avoided thinking about because part of me wants her to be free and keep flying, but at the same part of me, she's gone through a traumatic relationship, and now she has the ability to be 100% free from all the pain, all the trouble, and everything else. So, does she will or does she fly? I don't. Excuse me. Yeah, no, I'm unsure yet how I feel about Day and her freedom.
And perhaps it's okay, just knowing that she has the choice and the freedom to choose is enough. Do you have some thoughts on Day's future, Maria?
I was kind of hoping she'd hook up with Owen.
I'm glad I'm not alone because when he came to visit, I was like, maybe he'll be different.
I wrote in my notes, oh, now Day gets a friend as well.
Mhm. That's why I thought it was
I was
leaving.
looking forward to like a cheating aspect or something happening while he was gone, but oh well, I didn't get that.
I just wanted her to have someone to talk to that wasn't Rory. Like someone to say, this is wrong. Right.
And he would have.
Yeah.
I think.
Unfortunately, I think he would also have raped her. I don't think.
I think so, but I don't know if after she spoke, if things would change. Like, I'm wondering.
But would she ever be able to forget her previous experiences with him? Should she be forced to forget it just because now she could speak and he thought, oh, she's a human or person?
I don't think so. I just think it's a different perspective because you could also, have known someone who you truly hated and years later or, matured or something and not all of his personality, I'm sure, left him as he got older. But because of his personality, I'm sure he'd be very blunt and straightforward with her because he didn't hold back.
Have you watched the first Zootopia?
The what?
Judy, the first Zootopia, Zootopia.
Zootopia.
Yeah. Judy Hopps goes back to her childhood home, and she meets the fox who attacked her in the beginning, and he has changed. That is what you wanted Owen to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Robin's like,
And it would have been a beautiful redemption for him as well.
Yeah.
Nope, I think that fox should have got kicked in the face.
I agree with when he was younger. I agree he should have.
Horrible. He was horrible.
He left a permanent scar on her, but
Yeah.
Disney,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she felt it in her body, like just his energy. I think she could feel it when he visited to drop off something to his aunt. I
Yeah,
think
I'd have
that
been
was
dropping off some berries in imps pie.
I think we're still on the fox from Zootopia.
Still on the fox.
Basically, if you haven't watched the movie, Maria, the main character gets attacked by a fox in the beginning and he leaves scars on her. And then later in the movie, they meet as adults. And it's all, oh, we're friends now and I have changed and I'm sorry. So he's getting.
I do remember it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I do recall that he's like a totally different adult.
Yeah, but this is the question about, do the actions you have done in your past, do they get left in the past, or are you always forced to carry them with you and take responsibility for them? Because I think if you mold a child, you are always responsible for having molded a child, even though you've changed. That is something you did.
I think you carry it with you.
Yeah.
For sure. Even if you have like completely like turned your life around, it's still a part of you and it still made you who you are today. So I don't think you can like completely leave it behind, because it's a part of your life and why you're who you are, you know, in the present. Kind of like people who turn their lives after being an addict and they went from nothing to, you know, something great and family, and you know, but I don't think you can leave it behind.
Should Wayne then be allowed to leave what she has done behind? No, Robin.
Nope.
But she is a genius. She could revolutionize the world of constructs. She could make human life so much easier.
Well,
If we forgive this.
Yeah, she couldn't even raise her brother properly. I wouldn't want her to be a genius in anything. She was responsible for him, and she left him. So,
But she was also a child.
Yeah. And that's a lot of responsibility for a child.
She was actually 16, so she couldn't legally be responsible for him.
But she could have stayed in his life and been that female role model. And maybe he wouldn't have done today what he did if he had that relationship with her. And that, yeah.
It's a complex book with only really 3 characters taking the stage. And I think it's amazing that we can have a 48-minute long discussion about 3 characters. But I do want to get to touch quickly on the world building, because Maria, you wanted more of academia. And I like that the world outside of the forest and the cottage was so vague that it was dropped and we had to piece it together. But how does the world look like to you? What period of time are we in? Because for me, I thought it was perhaps 1820s until they mentioned phones and plastic, and that threw me off, and I have no idea where and when we are.
To me, it threw me into, if y'all have seen the show Discovery of Witches, it was that vibe completely. What I was seeing, because there is a lot of villages and stuff around the university that she's attending. I pictured that entire vibe the whole time.
And it's set in the modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the modern.
Okay.
I actually completely agree with Maria. When I was reading it, I literally pictured Diane Bishop on walking through the university, and that was it. I couldn't get out of my head then.
So, and that's Oxford? Cambridge?
Cambridge.
I don't know.
And
I didn't actually picture like a time period as far as years. It was just the surroundings they were in, where it varied for me. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen like Once Upon a Time, like those fairy tale villages, and then
Yeah.
you go, and then they mention the trains and the phones and stuff. And then that was included in there. So it was like a mixture of that. It wasn't really a time period for me, I would say, just the atmosphere.
I think the clearest image I got was of the local village. It was sort of like Hogsmeade from the movies, not necessarily from the books, but the way it was portrayed in the Warner Brothers movies. And I think that's why I got such a early time period. There was, but did you want more context of the world, or did you get enough?
No,
kind
I
of
got
wanted.
enough.
I think I got enough.
I wanted a little bit more. I don't know, because I think it was just a lot of the repetitiveness of making
The going back and forward.
day. Yeah. I think that part and like what she was constructed of and all the plants and berries and bushes and stuff. I think some of that could have been turned into more of the world building, um, the town, and then the cottage as well. And then it threw me off also when they were talking about holding the time of spring. I was like, they can do that as well. So like what are we exactly dealing with as far as the creation of things for them?
Yeah, and that seems like such a mundane thing that you could just do this.
Yeah.
But I think we are dealing with a world where magic is ingrained. Like you go to university to study magic, not to become a wizard, but to work in construction. Like literally, you make constructs that work construction jobs. It seems very boring almost if you view it from another lens than what we have gotten in the
It's
book.
like engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I thought. I was like, I guess I wanted to know more of that. Like, what type of magical world is it? That's kind of what I was, which is why I wanted more of the academia part. Like, maybe to see him spiraling at the university and stuff happening there. I think that's what I wanted. But it was okay essentially. But I was more curious as to, okay, what kind of world is this? Why is this a part of teaching?
Yeah.
And then like the Miss Matthews, I didn't know if it was more of the outskirts of town or the inwards of town. I kept getting confused whether they were thinking like the engineering and stuff was more taboo, because they were saying it's like unnatural and whatnot, but I didn't know, I couldn't decipher between the two of were the city folk like not taboo or were the country folk not taboo.
I think it was a sort of the whole like the tribes around the world that think like technology is like the devil. I think it was that's how I saw it. Is like that they, like I feel like they see our development in the world and as technology and everything is growing as a negative to the human race. I think that's what they saw it as, because Owen, was it Owen, the one that says, you know what they do at those universities, right? That was his comment.
That's what
So, but I also saw it as a duality that a bloodwit, the thing that they is more common in the villages and in the countryside because it's more closely connected to the old traditions and to the nature that you can find there. So they are not completely shocked that something like this exists, but they still think it's unnatural. But then in the city, you're more used to define construct. You have this purpose, you work like this, and you're made from these materials. It's more formulaic. So the thought of something like they is unnatural to them also, because it's, but why there isn't a recipe for her? How can this be? How can she exist? So yeah, I kind of wanted more world building in that I wanted to see Day made from different things, not just local from her, but we did see her get made of birds, but like what would happen if she had tropical flowers but it had to be a self-expression, and I guess that's what she can get into once she leaves. Do you have any last comments that you want to share?
Kind of.
Yeah,
Go
for it.
Because Rin did it kind of like effortlessly, and so I was wondering if she had done it in the past, like she just knew how to make a flower girl off the bat. And then I was thinking at the end of the story, like, is Day going to, or is Rory, I'm bringing him down from the shelf, going to try to make another Day with, or more improved, I guess you could say, like that can last for himself. So those were my thoughts. I was just wanting to see kind of like a before and an after of that story.
We've talked a lot about him going back to university and stuff. I actually don't think he will leave the cottage ever again. So perhaps he does make another flower girl. But I kind of saw him as spiraling. Like he will stay there and he will be locked there, both emotionally and in space. But you're right. I hadn't thought about it before. He probably won't stop. He does know how to create a new one.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about that, Maria? This hopelessness of the story repeating.
I just picture a house of Blue webs instead of a house of wax at this point. I don't know, and I don't know if I thought about that too, if Wynn had ever done it before, but they did have that tutor where I'm thinking maybe she, I don't know, maybe had like, I guess like a homework type of thing to do, and her on her own just created stuff and realized she was good at it, and that's why she offered to, you know, to create Day at that point when she was kind of annoyed with Rory. And I guess, and not only that, I feel like when she created her, but not even she would interact with Rory or Day. So, I mean, a lot of it does fall on her. Aside from creating the thing, she was never around him, like ever, even in the home. So I don't know. I feel like there's more behind her, of course, but we didn't get a lot on her since she wasn't like the main focus.
And perhaps you just read it in a book that this was a thing. Do you know Astrid Lindgren and her Pippi Longstrumpe? It's a children's character who is really strong, and she has a quote that says, "I have never done that before, therefore I must be able to do it and I must be good at it." And maybe that was what Wayne felt like. I have never created a flower girl before, so it can't be that hard, and I'll just do it. Maybe it's the confidence.
Pippi Longstockings?
Yeah.
Pippi Longstockings?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was trying to figure out what the character you were talking about.
It's the redhead with the brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it is this confidence of children that, well, this is new, so I haven't failed at it yet. And we see that both in Roy and in Wayne, that, well, just because everybody else has failed in doing this doesn't mean I will fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
On that note, I'm gonna thank you so much for talking with me about Honeysuckle today. In 2 weeks' time, we're gonna be back to talk to the author, Bar Fridman-Tell, And if everybody watching has some questions, you can send them into Book in a Box. And you're free also gonna join me for that. Thank you so much for being here. Until I see you again, have a nice day. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.
And okay, we're offline.
I didn't leave this.